the former British intelligence agent who compiled the hoax dossier alleging ties between President Donald Trump and Russia, refuses to cooperate with the Department of Justice's investigation into the origins of the Obama administration's spying on then-candidate Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, according to Reuters. A Reuters source close to Steele's private investigation outfit, Orbis Business Intelligence, said the ex-spy has chosen not to answer questions from Connecticut's U.S. Attorney John Durham, who was recently appointed by Attorney General William Barr to examine the probe's origins. Reports of Steele's unwillingness to cooperate with the Durham comes days after President Trump gave Barr authority to declassify intelligence materials related to the probe and ordered several law enforcement agencies, including the CIA and FBI, to cooperate with the U.S. Attorney's review. In 2016, Steele was hired by the opposition research firm Fusion GPS, tasked by attorneys for the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign to dig up dirt on President Trump. Steele's dossier was partly used by the FBI to obtain a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act (FISA) warrant to surveil members of the Trump campaign, namely, one-time Trump campaign foreign policy advisor Carter Page. FBI officials did not disclose explicitly to the FISA court that the dossier was paid for by the DNC or the Clinton campaign. However, the Bureau did indicate that the document was produced as opposition research. In a recent interview with the Fox News channel, Barr specified his department is examining if government officials abused their power and put their thumb on the scale at the beginning of the FBI's counterintelligence operation into the Trump campaign. I've been trying to get answers to the questions, and I've found that a lot of the answers have been inadequate, and some of the explanations I've gotten don't hang together. In a sense, I have more questions today than when I first started, the Attorney General told anchor Bill Hemmer. While Steele has ruled out cooperating with Durham's review, the source told Reuters that the former spook may still assist the Justice Department in another investigation into the FBI's handling of two of its most high-profile probes in recent years. The source close to Steele's company said Steele would not cooperate with Durham's probe but might cooperate with a parallel inquiry by the Justice Department's Inspector General into how U.S. law enforcement agencies handled pre-election investigations into both Trump and Clinton, according to Reuters. Meanwhile, a dispute has erupted over whether fired FBI Director James Comey or then CIA Director John Brennan pushed for the Steele dossier to be included in the intelligence community assessment on Russian interference. In a recent interview with the Fox News channel, former House Oversight Committee Chairman Ray Gowdy, RSC, suggested, "Whoever is looking into this, tell them to look into emails between Comey and Brennan from December 2016. However, in a statement to Fox News, an unnamed former CIA official fingered the former FBI chief as the culprit. Former Director Brennan, along with former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, are the ones who oppose James Comey's recommendation that the Steele dossier be included in the intelligence report," the official told the news outlet. The minor league Fresno Grizzlies felt the need to apologize to New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for some misleading and offensive editing, in a Memorial Day tribute video that played at the team's stadium. The Grizzlies said the video, meant to be a moving tribute to the armed forces, was played on the scoreboard between games of a doubleheader on Memorial Day. But just after the voice of President Ronald Reagan speaks about enemies of freedom, the face of Ocasio-Cortez appeared in between images of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un and brutal Cuban President Fidel Castro, USA Today reported. The team apologized for appearing to label Ocasio-Cortez as an enemy to freedom and claimed the video made a statement that was not our intent and certainly not our opinion. The team also apologized to veterans for the undue distraction on such a solemn day. "We're embarrassed we allowed this video to play without seeing it in its entirety first," the Grizzlies said in a statement. "We unconditionally apologize to Rep. Ocasio-Cortez, et al., in addition to our fans, community and those we hurt. It was a mistake, and we will ensure that nothing like it ever happens again." The team added that the video was chosen from YouTube and was not made specifically for the team's Memorial Day event. Grizzlies spokesperson Paul Braverman also noted that they identified the employee who picked the video and added it to the system for playback. The employee expressed regret, and the incident has caused the team to put a ban on airing videos found on the internet in the future. The appearance of Ocasio-Cortez grouped with the two brutal dictators appears at 3 minutes into the tribute video. Antifa is also grouped among America's enemies in the video. Bear Creek High School in Stockton, California, was placed on lockdown last week after an estimated 80 students attacked police officers who arrived on campus to detain one student for fighting with school staff. Stockton police estimated that about 80 Bear Creek High School students were involved in a physical altercation with police officers on Friday morning as the officers were detaining one student for fighting with school staff, according to Stockton Record. Video footage captured the chaotic brawl, which shows scores of students surrounding the officers in what appears to be an attempt to stop them from detaining the student. Moments later, one student in the crowd can be seen throwing a garbage can at the officers while the others jeer and shout. Stockton police arrived at the high school on Friday morning to detain one student who had been reported for fighting with school staff, but when the student resisted arrest, it spurred around 80 other students to engage in a physical struggle with officers and school staff members, according to police. During this detention, officers were struck by several students and a garbage can was thrown at officers and school staff, said the Stockton Police Department. The incident resulted in the Lodi Unified School District placing the school on lockdown. "I don't know what's going on with these kids," said a concerned parent to Fox 40 News. "I don't know, even with the authority there, and they're still being too much. It's scary, it's dangerous. When you go to school, you're supposed to respect the authority that's trying to keep you safe while you're here on campus," added former Bear Creek High student Kara Elkins. Stockton police did note, however, that no officers, students or staff members were injured during the physical altercation, adding that the student who had been initially detained was cited for resisting arrest. It remains unclear whether the other students involved will be charged. Mass outrage on the left ensued after photos emerged of United States sailors aboard the u.s.a. pouring "Make Aircrew Great Again" patches with President Trump's likeness on them. The images were first reported by White House reporters traveling with the president on his trip to Japan, where he stopped at a U.S. military base in Yokosuka. After the photos surfaced online, leftist commentators and pundits began calling for the airmen to be punished, claiming they had violated the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, for engaging in political activity while in uniform. One man who calls himself a liberal provocateur tried to alert their commander. View image on Twitter. Leftists were similarly outraged when Trump visited a U.S. base in Iraq last year for Christmas. Several troops had "Make America Great Again" hats, which drew claims they had violated UMCJ again. Some speculated that Trump's staff had brought the hats with them and distributed them. Former Vice President Joe Biden faces an opponent possibly even more formidable than President Donald Trump himself. In a half-century in Washington, spanning 36 years in the Senate and 8 in the Obama administration, Biden has flip-flopped on most major issues. On other issues, his former positions are no longer viable within the Democratic Party. Here is a list of Biden's reversals. 1. Abortion. Biden used to pride himself on a middle-of-the-road approach, supporting the pro-choice movement but maintaining that Roe v. Wade went too far. He also supported the Hyde Amendment, which prevents federal funding for abortion, and voted to ban partial birth abortions. He even voted to allow states to overturn Roe. Recently, however, Biden reversed his position on the Hyde Amendment, and condemned efforts by states like Alabama to overturn Roe. 2. Iraq War. Biden voted against the Gulf War in 1991, but voted in favor of the Iraq War in 2002. Like Hillary Clinton and John Kerry, Biden regretted that vote later. Rather than backing the U.S. troops surge, which ultimately worked, Biden's proposed alternative for Iraq was to partition the country into separate religious enclaves. 3. Immigration. As recently as 2006, Biden told Chris Matthews on MSNBC's Hardball that the U.S. should not grant amnesty to illegal aliens in the country, and that aspiring immigrants ought to be required to learn English. He also voted for a border fence, and told voters that he was proud of it. All of these positions are now broadly described as racist by Democrats, and Biden has revised his positions on amnesty. It is unclear where he stands on a border wall. 4. Women. Biden has taken criticism from Anita Hill and other women about how he treated her during the 1991 confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Though he said privately at the time that he believed she was lying, he has now tried to make amends. Biden is also trying to change a pattern of behavior in which he touched, kissed, or sniffed women at public events, unacceptable conduct in the post-Me Too era. 5. Desegregation. Early in his Senate career, Biden opposed busing to integrate schools. Biden also worked closely with senators who opposed civil rights and delivered a eulogy for former segregationist Strom Thurmond. His initial comments on Barack Obama's campaign were tinged with racial condescension. Later, As vice president, he warned black voters Republicans would put y'all back in chains. Now he is running as a uniter, casting Trump as a racist. 6. Guns. In 1986, Biden voted with the National Rifle Association, NRA, on a bill called the Firearms Owners Protection Act, FOPA, which the Second Amendment lobby calls the law that saved gun rights because it rolled back onerous regulations. As NBC News notes, Biden was key to the law's passage. In the 1990s, however, Biden began backing aggressive gun control laws. He still offers bizarre advice on the use of shotguns for self-defense. 7. Drugs. As Politico noted recently, Biden was one of the leaders of the war on drugs, which he now says went too far. His policies on crack led to racial disparities in sentencing. Other legislation he pushed has made it harder to treat opiate addiction, or to report overdoses. The Free Beacon notes that Biden used to call marijuana a gateway drug, but shifted suddenly toward backing decriminalization, just days before a fundraiser with a pro-legalization donor. 8. Gay marriage. In 1996, Biden voted for the Defense of Marriage Act, which prohibited federal recognition of same-sex marriages. Later in 2012, he shifted positions, in effect forcing President Obama to do the same, though many suspected Obama already backed same-sex marriage despite his public opposition and support for a traditional Christian view. Biden now says that the movement for transgender rights is the civil rights issue of our time. And here are issues on which Biden's views are too moderate for his party. 1. Coal. Biden told voters in West Virginia in 2008 that he and then Senator Barack Obama, DL, were in favor of clean coal. That was before the election, and before President Obama began taking regulatory steps designed to put the coal industry out of business. Most of the Democratic presidential candidates embrace the Green New Deal, which calls for removing coal, clean or otherwise, and other fossil fuels from the American economy within 12 years. 2. Entitlement reform. Biden once proposed freezing or cutting entitlements like Medicare and Social Security. As recently as 2018, he supported means testing for Social Security. Democrats routinely run Medicare campaigns against Republicans who propose even mild reforms to the nation's entitlements, and the party's young progressives, who now drive its policy agenda, question whether the federal government needs to balance its budget at all. 3. Trade. Biden was a staunch supporter of free trade agreements throughout his career. As Politico noted recently, in the Senate, Biden voted for the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and permanent normal trade relations with China. As then-President Barack Obama's number 2, he supported the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP. The article also pointed out that Biden rarely mentions trade, and that his Democratic rivals are itching to attack his record on it.